Welcome, one and all, to episode 431 of Scotch and Smoke Rings. I am your friendly neighborhood Oxhorn, here as always with my suspender set to maximum stun. Got a great show for you all today. Gonna have a great time. It's gonna be a little shorter than usual. I'll probably have to say this a couple of times during the stream, but no game today, just me. So I don't have time to play a video game today. So no Metro, no Old World Blues, no other game. And that's because I'm a little bit behind on my video for tomorrow. Today's video, the video I worked on yesterday, which I published today, kicked my proverbial behind. It was exhausting because it ended up being about an hour and 20 minutes long, and I didn't expect it to be that long as I started working on it. So I'm behind for today's video, and I need to catch up. So I'm going to do the show. We're going to go for about an hour, but no game today. Hope everyone understands. All right, I'm checking all of the different chats today. YouTube, Twitch, and of course the Steam questions section on Discord. Good to see everyone in the chat today. Mrs. E says whoop whoop. Supreme Commander James Shu says awesome. Good to have you here. And looks like everyone on YouTube is here as well. Now you guys, YouTube flies off the screen. YouTube is really, it's hard for me to keep track of everything going on YouTube because it goes by so quickly. Anyway, time to start the show. We've got, what is this today? It's a Casa de Garcia Maduro. Never tried this before, but we're going to try it today. POTUS says, are we playing Fallout 4? No, we're not playing any game today. Think of today as just a big Q&A. We're going to go for 45 minutes to an hour or so. You can ask questions. I'll do my best to answer them. And then I got to get to work on my video for tomorrow. So that's what we're going to do today. Holy cow. I am Shade with a nice tip says, no game, that's okay, we still love you. Well, thank you very much, I appreciate it. The Dark Seraph says, I won't try to make you say, thank you very much, the Dark Seraph, for not trying to make me say what you wrote, because I wouldn't say it. Anyway, lighting this thing on fire, here we go. Yes, I realize I'm supposed to use a match or at least a lighter with butane and not fuel. Now we've got that behind us, we can go on with the show. Global Tart says, do you cosplay? I don't cosplay, no. There would be very few pieces of fandom that I would be able to pull off. Everyone tells me that I would be a good Ox King from Dragon Ball Z, I believe. And they're probably right. That's all I could do. The Sodden Knight says, hey, I started giving you money now, Oxhorn. I'm cool now, right? Yeah, you're more than welcome to be as cool as you possibly can. Go for it. Pot of the name messed me up. Pot of Anxiety says, hi, any new crazy theories? Well, we will be going through a few really cool theories in tomorrow's video, the video I'm working on today, dealing with Dr. Boris and his relationship to the Saros tribe, incidentally. Of Honest Hearts. Cameron says, I'll start off with this one. What do you think of the film Gangs of New York? I'm sorry, I haven't seen it. I like the top hats. I saw the commercials, and there were guys walking around in top hats, which looked dapper. Yeah, I haven't seen the movie, sorry. This is the problem with tipping, expecting that I'll know the reference you make. I haven't seen every television show, movie, or books, so sadly I won't know some things, and I'm sorry about that. But yeah, top hats are cool. Let's see. Silver Flame says, hey, any general life advice for dealing with heartbreak? I could use some. Well, it's hard to answer that question without sounding trite. Because what I would say is something you've probably heard. It's something you've probably seen in every film on the topic, but when I've dealt with heartbreak, I'll tell you, at the time it of course feels like the end of the world. And sometimes that feeling lasts for hours, especially if it's about unrequited love or death of a family member or something like that. But they do say that time heals all wounds, and I don't know about all wounds. I'm not sure if that's true for everything, because I haven't suffered every kind of pain, and so I don't know if time heals all wounds. But I can say that time does heal many wounds, even severe wounds. That what may feel like the end of the world today, what may make one feel like one can't go on, that there's just no way out, that feeling does end. It takes a while, but it does end. And it's also very tempting to play the victim card. Now, the victim card can be played a number of ways, but what some people are tempted to do when something horrible happens, they lose someone, they're bereft, is they like to pretend like the world is against them. That they are this lone bastion of self against this pervading tide of hatred and life against them, and you know. And because of that, they use that to excuse poor behavior towards other people. And that's something that really needs to be avoided, if at all possible. It slows the healing process. It makes the planet a worse place to be. So, another really tricky thing when dealing with grief is when other people try and make it better for you. Oftentimes, people will try and do that to make themselves feel better. Well, I'm really a good person. I helped this person in their time of pain. Sometimes it comes from a place of selflessness, and sometimes it comes from a place of selfishness. And I've always found that if it's an extremely grievous moment in life, a little bit of solitude is totally cool. For a few days, however long you need. But slipping back into the social sphere is also important afterwards. A man by himself can get into trouble in his mind. All right. I saw something and it flew off the screen. Yeah, it's gone. So, I guess I shouldn't make long answers because then I'll miss the other questions. The Sodden Knight says, so lore and plot and other story stuff aside, how do you like the silliness of old world blues? I'm enjoying it. It's certainly refreshing. There is part of me that sometimes is a little frustrated by the silliness, where sometimes I think it's a bit too silly. But silliness has a long and healthy history in the Fallout franchise. So, it's all right with me. I'm enjoying myself. It's a great DLC. Louis Garcia, with a tip, says, hey Oxhorn, from all of the Fallout games, which game has your favorite antagonist, and why are they your favorite? Well, I'm going to exclude Fallout 1, Fallout 2, and Fallout Tactics. Because I haven't completely beaten them, but I have beaten the others. So I'm going to say that my favorite villain in the Fallout franchise is Father. And the reason I'm going to say that is because he's so multi-dimensional. The villains in many of the other games are pretty one-dimensional. I realize that there are plenty of reasons why Caesar may be the best solution for the Mojave Wasteland, but he's really a one-dimensional villain. He has a world philosophy. He accepts and embraces brutality to achieve that philosophy. There's not much more to him. And many of the villains in some of the DLCs for New Vegas are the same way. Salt Upon Wounds, Father Elijah just likes power and being alone. In Fallout 3, when you get to... I don't want to do any spoilers. When you get to find out who John Henry Eden is, it's interesting. He's an interesting villain, but I wouldn't call him the most interesting. The reason I say Father, even compared to all of the other Fallout villains, is mainly because of his connection to you and how he became the man that he was. He was a boy. He was an infant. Well, it's hard to do this with... it's hard to do this without spoilers. I like how complex Father is, because he doesn't really know where he stands, especially on synths, especially on sentimentality. He says a lot of stuff about science and research being the way to make a better mankind, and anything is expendable in order to reach that. But the way he acts is completely different from the way he speaks. He talks about lack of sentimentality, and yet he releases the Soul Survivor because he says just to see what would happen. But as we learn later, for more sentimental reasons. He says that he doesn't think synths are people, and yet there comes a point when he refers to a very specific synth as someone who needs a family member. So he's got this interesting dichotomy. He says one thing, but he acts a different way. I think he's a really interesting character. I need to do a profile video on him is what I need to do. Donald says, with a tip, thank you very much. What inspired you to make your lore videos, and what do you think of Caesar's Legion? What inspired me to do my lore videos is there's so much to the lore of the Fallout franchise that gets completely glossed over when you're exploring the world. We're so preoccupied with, modifying our weapons, getting better ammunition, finding a new player home, getting the quests done, getting better armor, that sometimes we overlook the story. And I know that when I played all of the different Fallouts, the first time, that's the way I played them. And I really relish the opportunity to come back now and play through them with a laser-like focus on the lore. And what do I think of Caesar's Legion? I'm not terribly impressed by them. I have gone through the entire Caesar's Legion plot in a previous playthrough, but I haven't gone through it again in this playthrough. They're just another Mojave gang, an extremely successful one, but just another gang, in my opinion. But never fear, we will get to their full story in upcoming videos. Alright, I'm gonna scroll up to see if I missed, because I could have sworn I saw another tip come by, and I missed it, yeah. It just flies off the screen way too fast. Yeti says, Oxhorn, will you be doing the Mod Muster again anytime soon? Possibly. The reason I've kind of put the Mod Musters on halt, or on pause for now, is because I've got so much lore to get through. Every single time I publish a video, viewers will leave a comment on what they want to see. Old World Blues, for example, has been... it's been requested for months and months and months. Every video I publish for months and months and months has been somebody asking for Old World Blues. So I'm really happy to be doing the Old World Blues series to kind of get this done and make sure that everyone's really happy with it. But, whenever I publish a mod video, I don't get people clamoring for more mod videos. They get viewed, and people enjoy them, but they don't get viewed quite as much as my lore videos. So I figure as long as I've got a lot of rich lore to do, why break the stride, It's a very different thing to be doing a mod video, and I felt that sometimes it would interrupt my stream of consciousness. I would be all geared up to tell a story, and then I'd realize, oh, it's Friday, I should do a mod video. And it would kind of interrupt that. So, I will get to mod videos, mod musters in the future, but right now I'm focusing primarily on lore. Christian says, keep up the great work. I love your vids. Thank you very much, Christian. I do appreciate the tip. Ozen says, is it your plan to make a dedicated video for the 6th Courier sometime? Oh, yes. I really enjoyed publishing my video this morning because the pieces are slowly starting to come together, and we get one of the final pieces to the puzzle at the very end of Old World Blues during one of the ending slides, which is foreshadowing to Lonesome Road, which I'm really excited to get to. Man, I just love the thing that Obsidian does so well with their DLCs is even though it's a post-apocalypse, they make it feel like real mythology. As you're playing the game, it feels like mythology, which is a wonderful feeling, and it's just so unique. It's it's a burst of fresh air is what it is. A breath of fresh air is what I think I meant to say. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to Lonesome Road, but before I can do Lonesome Road, I have to do the next Fallout 3 DLC, all of which, of course, I'm going to be doing after Old World Blues. The Dika says, watching from Wales all the way in the UK, have you ever considered playing the Frost mod for Fallout 4? It would be an interesting live stream. It's certainly something to consider. I've got so much lore to get through that's actually canon in the franchise that it may be some time before I start going through storyline and lore mods, but it's something I'm considering. Cameron says, so Oxhorn, do you ever reduce the difficulty of certain gameplays in your Fallout playthroughs when you get stuck? No, I just practice. I go over and over and over again until I get it. So, for example, in the video that I did today, I had no idea that I was going to be encountering this incredibly tough mini-boss named Stripe inside Higgs Village. And that's because I didn't do any research before I shot my footage. I wanted to go into Old World Blues completely fresh without knowing a thing about it. Then, if I missed anything while exploring a location, after I completely finished Old World Blues, I would go do research and go, oh, I missed that, then go back and shoot that footage. But, yeah, Stripe was completely... I didn't expect him, and I died 3 or 4 times before I finally killed him. It took me a while to figure out that he ran away from the fountain, so as long as I retreated to the fountain, I would be okay. Here I am making really long answers, and it just flew off the screen. Cameron says, so Oxhorn, do you ever reduce... Oh, that's the exact same thing I just answered. So let me scroll down to the next one. To answer your question, no, I don't reduce the difficulty. I just replay over and over again. The next one from Donald says, I can't be the only one who notices this. I hear whispers in the castle's basement, and I'm not crazy. You know, we hear whispering at the graveyard by Camp Forlorn Hope and at the graveyard at Little Yangtze. I wouldn't put it beyond Bethesda to put whispering in the castle, especially with all of its Edgar Allan Poe connections. Well, Plastic Bag says, how does your moral standing in gameplay affect your real-life decisions and vice versa? Well, when I'm playing a game, it depends on how I want to play it. Like, sometimes I'll have an evil playthrough, in which case, I want to see what happens if I choose the evil options, and so I'll play the character as if that character was evil, and so I'll choose the evil options. But if I'm in the middle of playing a good playthrough, where I'm making the choices that I would make in real life if this were real, it's more about my own real-life morality that's influencing my decision-making, rather than any morality I learned from a game influencing my real-life decision-making. That said, one of the greatest ways people can change their worldviews is by listening to stories. That's one way for people to learn lessons they otherwise wouldn't learn, because most people learn through life experiences, and without being able to experience some things in life, they otherwise wouldn't learn that lesson. And that's one of the beautiful things about stories. So, that said, it's quite possible for someone to learn a wonderful life lesson from playing a Fallout game and going through one of the stories. Have you done settlement build videos in Far Harbor or Nuka World? Also, Could you do a ship settlement mod muster at some time? Both. I've done videos for every single settlement in both Far Harbor and Nuka World, and I did an entire mod video dedicated to all of the ships that you can turn into player homes as mods for Fallout 4. So, Barry, thank you for the tip, but it's already done. Just got to do a little bit of Googling and search my channel to find it. James Shu says, Oxhorn, do you think a coup against Kimball would be a good or bad thing as long as Shu or whoever coups him has fair elections in the NCR? I'm not fond of military coups ever. I really don't think that they're really ever a good idea unless a leader becomes a tyrant. As long as that leader is democratically elected, then military coups, I believe, are off the table. If that leader assumes total control, then yeah, military coups are on the table. So in the case of the NCR and Kimball, I agree that Kimball is probably a really bad leader for the NCR, and Shu would be a good replacement, though not a perfect one. But if there was to be a change of power, I would want it to come through elections. I would want it to be democratic. Now, there's, of course, the argument we could say, well, what if the elections are corrupt? Well, then I would work on fixing the corruption in the election system first before doing any coup. But, you know, things go on a case-by-case basis. Maybe you can't fix the election system without replacing the leadership. Or maybe you can't replace the leadership without fixing the election system, which would mean a military option is the only option available. Kind of just depends on the situation, and I'm not sure which is the appropriate decision in this one. Man, my cigars, I gotta keep my cigar lit. Can you join the NCR in New Vegas? More or less, you can side with the NCR at the very end of the game, and you can become your reputation with them can become so great that everyone in the NCR sees you as a hero of the NCR. For example, if you've completed so many NCR quests in their favor, when you get to Jacobstown, you can make the NCR mercenaries go away by saying, "Look, I'm the courier, I'm a hero of the NCR, you better back off." And they recognize you and they walk away. So I don't know if they would consider you an enlisted soldier, because after all, you do have freedom of movement. You're not stationed anywhere. So are you a real soldier? I'm not sure. Are you a citizen? Again, I'm not sure, but you're certainly a hero of the NCR and you can come and go as you please. Which I think would be it would be preferable anyway. Looks like my mouse is about to die. Let's go ahead and plug it in right here. There we go. All right, with a wonderful tip from Donald, he says, what is the most moral or stable faction in Fallout? Well, I think I answered this in depth in my series of videos on the different major factions of Fallout 4. I did a video on why the Brotherhood is evil, on why the Institute is evil, on why the Railroad is good but flawed, and I did a video on why I believe that the Minutemen are the best hope for the Commonwealth. So I've laid out all of my arguments and my thoughts in those videos. I encourage you to watch them all. But to briefly sum up, even though the Minutemen are not stable now, I believe they are the best hope for the Commonwealth, because they have, of all of the other factions, the greatest potential to become the most stable and do the greatest good for the most people. Now, that potential is wrapped up entirely in the sole survivor, of course. Now, if you're role-playing someone who isn't interested in helping society, then the Minutemen would be a bad option, because only through you, the general, will the Minutemen find success for the most people. So it depends on the kind of character that you're deciding to play. Derfiend says, I love your videos. Thank you very much. Ever think about doing a video on the Talent Company mercenary group? I was always intrigued by them. Yeah, there's a dearth of information about the Talent Company, and they are really, I would have to do a video on Little Horn and Associates, because they are the ones, I believe, who send out the Talent Company. They contract with the Talent Company. And I haven't done a video on them yet. I did a video on the Regulators, but not Little Horn and Associates. So yeah, I've got a Little Horn and Associates video to do, and as an extension, I should talk about the Talent Company. Outside of that, I don't know if there's much lore. Amna says, just love the channel. Well, thank you very much, Amna. I appreciate it. GB Gamer says, hey dude, hello from Brazil. Love your vids. Well, thank you very much. And man, Brazil. I used to work at a number of, before I started doing this channel, I worked in a marketing role at a number of companies, and for a period of 5 years there, my boss was promising to send me to Brazil to work with our offices there, but I never went, sadly. Maybe someday, maybe someday. This is what happens when I get to talk and my cigar goes out. The Sodden Knight says, "Hey Ox, this might be more of a question for your artist, but why are the shirts on your channel double-sided? It kind of bugs me." Oh. I don't know, I thought people liked double-sided shirts. I always make them double-sided because I thought they would sell better. Is that not true? Is there a bunch of people who otherwise would have bought a shirt, but once they learned it was double-sided, they didn't want it? Raise your hands. Just let me know. It's easier to make a single-sided shirt, which I would totally do if that's what you all preferred. So just let me know. Oh, it flew off the screen. Where was it? Somebody said, and I can't say his name because it flew off the screen. Somebody said, "Hey Oxhorn, are you married? And if so, does your wife hate your cigar smoking?" I know mine hates it. Yes, I am married. My wife does not. She's not pleased about my cigar smoking. She's not fond of the smell. Apparently, the cigar odor bothers her a bit. But I was a cigar smoker before we even met, and she has grown to accept and love that about me. But I try to be conscientious. When I do smoke cigars, which is not very often, it's once or twice a week. It's not that much. But when I do smoke cigars, I've got a fan going, and I've got a crack in my door, so I've got this airflow coming through, pushing all the smoke outside. I'm trying to be courteous. I second the notion on the single-sided shirts. Double-sided for the win. Oh, no. I like double-sided shirts. Ah, man. Double-sided shirts, says Joe. Tough decision. Maybe we should do a poll. Mrs. E, that's a good idea. Half of you guys like double-sided, half of you like single-sided. Oh. Single-sided is better. Ah, man, everyone's going to confuse me now. Ah. Maybe I should make a double and single-sided for each design. Or maybe I should contact the shop and just say, make it a... I wonder if... I saw a blue light. Did anyone else see a blue light? Just me. Insert name here says, "Hey Oxhorn, I know you live in Seattle and I'm planning on going up there in the winter. Do you have any suggestions on where to go in Seattle?" If you like parks, go to Gasworks Park. It's close to the University of Washington. It's a great little place. Wonderful view of the Seattle skyline. If you want a fun little touristy thing to do, ride the Ducks. They give you a great tour of downtown Seattle and the Queen Anne area. Lots of wonderful sights. Space Needle is okay. It's expensive. And I don't know if it's worth it, but it's all right. Sky Shower says, "I never liked Let's Plays, but I always loved lore vids." Well, you're in the right place. I do both. So you can pick and choose. Triple-sided? You want a triple-sided shirt? Oh, man. I'm never satisfied. By the way, just so that everybody knows, if you fill your comment with a lot of emojis, I purposefully ignore that comment. So That's not a way to catch my attention. Just letting everybody know. I'm not going to ban you. But if you want your question answered, don't spam emojis, okay? Cool. Diva says, have you considered having a t-shirt with the Enclave XO1 helmet on it? Possibly. It's a good idea. Although I wonder if the Enclave really did make the XO1. Now I know, I debated this in my video on the XO1. The title slide in Fallout 4 says that the remnants of the United States military made the XO1. Alright, I guess, anyway, it's worth discussing in a different video. But yeah, I have considered putting it on a shirt. I'd have to get my, my artist to work on it. Race says, how many chest hairs do you have? Have you counted? Well, I keep stock. I have them categorized and named. Let's see. There's Benjamin. There's Philip. Oh, hey there, Junior. Oh, they're all doing really well. Yeah, I've got a catalog on my computer. I'll share it with the fans sometime. But they're all fine. Thanks for asking. Augustus says, Oxhorn, why are you so anti-Enclave? Oh, I wouldn't say I'm anti-Enclave. I disagree with the Enclave, okay? I don't like their propaganda. I don't like the fact that they lie, which is what they're doing in their propaganda. So there are a lot of things that the Enclave does that I don't like. But I'm going to refrain from judging the entire faction yet until I go through all of my lore videos about the Enclave in Fallout 3. There is, however, the opening to Fallout 2 where the Enclave kills everybody in Vault 13. I believe that's not a spoiler. You start playing Fallout 2, that's the first thing that happens. And that kind of turns me off to the Enclave. I'm like, probably the bad guys. That's a good indication. David R., with a wonderful tip, thank you, David, says, do you think that in the real world the Brotherhood is the most viable option to take the fight to the Institute? It depends. I mean, it really... Okay, compared to the Railroad, yeah. The Railroad is out of it. They're a clandestine operation. Subterfuge is what they do. Despite the reality of the endings we have in the game, I wouldn't put them side by side with the Brotherhood in terms of military might for taking out the Institute. But we have to remember that there are many ways to take out an enemy, and military might is just one of them. I believe that the Brotherhood certainly excels at military might. But there's nothing subtle about the Brotherhood. And subtlety sometimes wins a war. The Railroad might not be able to win a battle when compared to the Brotherhood, but the war, subtlety might be able to win a war better. So it's kind of a tricky thing. Now, if we were to have a battle the old school way where you have a large field and an army on each side and they just ran at each other until they died, Railroad versus the Brotherhood, Brotherhood wins. Brotherhood versus the Institute, that's a tricky question. I do think that the Brotherhood would be most likely to win unless the sole survivor was successful at ramping up the Minutemen. The ranged artillery that the Minutemen have is an exceptional weapon. It can take out a flying blimp. The entire blimp thing is so stupid. I love the blimp, don't get me wrong. It's an amazing vehicle. And I did an entire video dedicated to it where I just geeked out on how cool the blimp is. But it is such a tactically stupid vehicle to put an entire army and headquarters in. It's just not smart. Not smart at all. So, I don't know. There are pros and cons either way. But the Brotherhood certainly, it cannot be argued that they're an amazing military force. The Hive Mind says, hey, Oxhorn, love your content. Do you have any advice on creative writing? I'm writing a novel myself, and I'm having issues putting thoughts to words. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more intimidating than a blank page. Oh, there really isn't. My biggest recommendation would be, don't worry about the details. Just, even if it's horrible, even if it is just thought garbage, even if it has misspellings and bad punctuation, and it's just incoherent nonsense, get it on paper. Just get something on paper. Start writing. Even if it's just a plot treatment. This is oftentimes what's done is, instead of sitting down and writing the actual narrative with the dialogue, they just sit down and write summaries of the ideas they have for the overarching plot in their head. When I wrote my book, that's what I did. I sat down and did a 10-page thesis of what my book was going to be about, right, giving myself notes in the margins and kind of sketching out minor characters and what I wanted to do, and then I just built from that slowly over time. It took a long time, it took many years, but I was finally able to knock it out. All 80,000 words of it. Hey, Greg is in the chat. He says, hey, Ox, I apologize for not showing up for the last few weeks. I've been focusing on life and such. I also want to apologize for not fulfilling my role as a mod on the Discord as of late. That's okay. We've got modding duties totally taken care of on the Discord. Don't you worry about it. Life and such goes first. So I'm glad that you were able to make it today. The Zark says, why is it that you play females most of the time? I've always been curious. You know, it's funny that you ask that, because for the vast majority of my gaming life, all 36 years of it, I've played male characters. When I started playing, I played my very first female character when I started playing Fallout 4. The first playthrough I did of Fallout New Vegas, I had a male character. So when I played Fallout New Vegas again, I wanted something different, which is why I chose a female character. I also have a male character for Fallout 4. He's my Brotherhood character. And then the other female character I have was the fans voted on it. It was during this program, an episode of Scotch and Smoke Rings, where I created the character and I left it up to a vote. And the viewers voted on female. So I had a woman character. I'm not... I guess it does really feel like I play a lot of female characters, doesn't it? There's really no reason. In my mind, it was sort of up to chance, but c'est la vie. Cringe Master says, hey Oxhorn, are there more advantages in power armor or just staying out of it and vice versa? Do you mean for Fallout 4? For Fallout 4... The biggest problem I have with power armor is it caps your carry weight. So it doesn't matter how much strength you have, how many strength bonuses you have in your armor, it's all negated by the power armor. So even if you have strength that can allow you to carry more than the cap for power armor, the moment you hop into power armor, your ability to carry things actually goes down, which doesn't make a lick of sense. But that's the way the game works. Outside of that, I find it very tricky to stay alive outside of power armor. You know, it depends on... I mean, really, it would be really hard to play the game outside of power armor unless you're wearing a full suit of just the best armor available. Unless you're a sniper. I found on my sniper character, my first character for Fallout 4, that she was able to stay alive pretty well because she defeated everything before it got to her. But my melee character is having a really hard time. Blighted Mongoose says, hey, I was wondering if you would recommend Seattle as a good place to live. Yeah, it's a great place. It's expensive. It's really expensive, and traffic is horrible. When I was growing up here, it was not expensive. But I was shocked because I moved to California for 3 or 4 years after college for work. When I moved back, one of the reasons I moved back is because I thought it would be really much less expensive to live here. But the cost of living in Seattle is quickly reaching California levels. It's just really expensive to live here. That said, people get around it by moving to the suburbs. And the suburbs of Seattle are reasonable, especially if you get outside of King County. Things are much better. It's easier to live. Traffic is a nightmare there. So if you live in the suburbs and you have to commute downtown, I wouldn't live that life. That's 4 hours of your day stuck in a car just to get to work every day. Impossible. But yeah, aside from that, if you don't work in the city and you live outside the city, or if you work in the city and you live in a place that you can walk to work, then you're going to be okay. But yeah, not bad crime. People are nice. There's this... Seattleites are often known for being cold. I believe that reputation comes from their Scandinavian roots. There are a lot of Scandinavians that came to Seattle, particularly the Ballard area. And culturally, I'm not sure, but culturally I've been told that Scandinavians are really reserved. And Seattleites tend to be really reserved as well. It's not like, if you were to live in Texas, people in Texas are warm, they greet you, everyone loves to see each other. In Seattle, people mind their own business. Just a cultural difference. Matt says, does Fallout 2 not work via Steam? I haven't tried it myself. Do we have to wait until you figure it out for a Herald video? Well, I've already shot footage of... Well, I won't get into that. None of the original Fallout games work on Steam out of the box. You have to download and install various patches to get it to work. And I haven't figured out Fallout 2 yet. I'm doing fine on Fallout 1, but I haven't gotten Fallout 2 to work yet. Oliver says, what order did you do your New Vegas videos in? I've played it 100 times, but I would like to kind of play it how you played it. I didn't have a plan for playing it. Here's what I did. I played through the primary quest as necessary to get my Lucky 38 suite. As soon as I got it, I completely abandoned the primary plot. I haven't even confronted Benny yet. And yet my character is level 40. I've finished 2.5, 3 now DLCs. I finished so many side quests, but I haven't even confronted Benny yet. In terms of what order I did, I didn't really have an order, but I focused on vaults. I really wanted to explore some of the vaults. So I did Vault 3 first, and then everything associated with Vault 3. So as a consequence, I had to do some Great Khans quests, and I had to do some Fiends stuff, which led me to the NCR, which is why I did Camp McCarran videos. Then I went down to Camp Forlorn Hope, and from there I just went through a lot of the NCR storyline. So yeah, I just focused on vaults and then took care of a lot of the stories related to that. So for example, when I did my video on Vault 34 before, I had to work with the boomers to figure them out first. Der Fiend says, hey Oxhorn, do you think Robert House could have actually delivered on his promise to push humanity to the stars? I don't think that really became his goal. It may have been at one time. But by the time the world is about to end, and certainly by the time we meet him, he has become a man who is less concerned about bringing humanity to the stars and more of a man concerned with maintaining his own power. This is, I think, most exemplified by the existence of Freeside. If he was really that concerned about people, he would allow his Securitrons to make Freeside safe. He would allow his Securitrons to go throughout the Mojave and make other places safe. But his home is in the Strip. That's his home. He made the Strip safe. He protected only the Strip from the nuclear devastation of 2077. He's concerned about himself and his own power. So no, I wouldn't bet on Robert House bringing humanity to the stars. David R. says, I definitely agree with the subtlety argument. I love studying history, especially that of militaries. And the Brotherhood of Steel is too conventional. It's just the railroad operates around the Institute before the sole survivor without the goal of destroying them. Well, they always wanted to destroy the Institute, but they never had an opportunity until they saw the sole survivor. The sole survivor was the railroad's opportunity into the Institute. Remember, no one had way in or out until Father allowed the sole survivor in. It was no accident that the sole survivor met with Kellogg. I mean, that was kind of Father's purpose. He wanted the sole survivor to meet Kellogg. He wanted the Soul Survivor to get Kellogg's implant, which would allow the Soul Survivor inside. That's why we found Father waiting for the Soul Survivor when the Soul Survivor arrived. It was their plan from the beginning. Without them planning for the Soul Survivor to come in, it would be nearly impossible for the Railroad to destroy the Institute. But once they got their hands on the Soul Survivor, they had an in. Now that said, of course, there's the whole downloading the schematics of the Institute, which the Minutemen did, but even they could only have done that with the Soul Survivor inside the Institute. Remember, the Soul Survivor downloaded a bunch of information from the very first terminal they found in there, which got the schematics for the Minutemen, allowing them to find a way in. So really, Father was the architect of the Institute's failure. You really have to wonder, if Father was not so connected to the Soul Survivor, is it even possible for the Institute to be defeated? Their teleportation technology is like, that's it. I mean, outside of that, with that technology, they can do anything they want. So... Supreme Commander Shu says, Oxhorn, do you realize that Mr. House / Robert House is basically the Fallout version of Howard Hughes? Yeah, I can see you didn't watch my video today. I actually mentioned that. I showed off a portrait of Robert House that we find in Dr. O's house. He's been throwing knives at it. And then I overlaid the original source photograph of Howard Hughes that the artist used as inspiration for that portrait of Mr. House. Virgil got out, says Geek. You're right, Virgil did get out, and we're never told exactly how he did. And how does Patriot get the synths out of the Institute? Without teleportation technology. Interesting. Huh. Isn't there that one access tunnel you can only get to at the end of the game, says Purple Space? Yeah, but we only know about that when we download the schematics of the Institute after having infiltrated it already. So there's, I mean, unless you know about it already from the inside, there's no way to know that that pipe leads to the Institute. It's funny because even the Brotherhood theorized before they got the Soul Survivor inside that there must be some connection. And they even pinpointed the location around the ruins of CIT. But they sent scouts there and they missed the pipe. They couldn't find it. If they couldn't find it, they even searched in the right location and they missed it. So I don't know. It is underwater. That could be part of it. They would have had to have gone underwater and swam to the exact location to see the pipe and then thought this might lead to the Institute. It would have taken a lot of work. Gordino says, Oxhorn, would you like to see a Fallout game based on what happened to Europe? I don't know if I want to see an entire game dedicated to what happened in Europe, but I would like to see a little bit more about what happened across the pond. We know from Fallout lore that after China and America started dropping bombs at each other, that Europe had already at that time devolved into warring city-states. So they had been warring with each other, fighting for meager resources long before the apocalypse. They were pretty much already in a state of decay and degradation. So God knows what happened after the bombs dropped. It would be interesting. 218 Production says, hey Oxhorn, are you a synth? Here's a tip, love the videos. Well, I'm not going to say no. I shall leave that aura of mystery. Who knows, maybe I am a robot. Diva says, Oxhorn, what are your thoughts on Dr. Lee? Well, I admire what she was trying to do with water in the capital wasteland. So, I think Dr. Lee is a principled scientist who's interested in doing her own research and really wants to help people. That's why she worked with the Lions Brotherhood of Steel to begin with. But after the end of Fallout 3, in the decade that happened after that we don't get to see, of course the Brotherhood of Steel changed. Lions and Sarah, they died. Maxon eventually took over, and it became an organization she didn't recognize and she didn't want to be a part of, which is why she went to the Institute. But she didn't realize what the Institute was when she joined, which is why when we find her in the Institute, she's got a lot of regret. She's frustrated about her situation there, which is why we can convince her to join the Brotherhood to begin with. But then if we do, once she gets back to the Brotherhood, she's really upset. She thinks she made a bad decision. So, especially if you destroy the Institute. She is not your fan if you destroy the Institute. So, she's a very talented scientist, and I believe she means well. I believe she wants to help humanity, but she doesn't know where she belongs, and she's not satisfied with either of the big major factions in the game. Solely, with a tip, thank you very much, Solely, says, would you ever consider doing videos on lore or other games such as Dark Souls? I know you're quite privy to Fallout, but the lore is very interesting. Possibly. I am really focused on Fallout right now. I may change in the future. Who knows? There's only so much Fallout, so 10 years from now, who knows? But for the moment, I'm focusing on Fallout. Thank you for the tip, Mark. He asks me a question about Lonesome Road, but seeing as how I haven't played it yet, I can't answer. But I'll be sure to cover it all when I do that DLC. Jesse with the tip says, love your videos, man. You're living my dream. Don't stop. The wasteland depends on it. Don't worry, I won't stop. Sergeant Jacques with the tip says, hello, Oxhorn. Amazing videos. Have you ever heard of Helldivers? No, I've never heard of Helldivers. Is it a game? I'm not familiar with it. The Sodden Knight says, as much as I'd love it, Dark Souls lore has been thoroughly explained by YouTube. Quite possible, but there is something to be said for my own unique take. Foodx says, Oxhorn, what's with Dala? Why is she coming off as so thirsty? I think it's because she used to be human and she chose to no longer be human. But due to the nature of her work, she still has to deal with human biology every single day. She, after all, is the specialist on animal life and lobotomites. She does all of the lobotomies. She does all of the surgeries. She deals with these bodies every single day. And the professional curiosity, I think, descended into more of a fixation. And when the courier arrives as a thinking, speaking lobotomite, that was something brand new. So, of course, she's fascinated. And we can use that. We can use that to our advantage in a number of occasions. I like the new change logo. Says Radioactive Cat. Thank you very much. I hope most people will like it. Lincoln88 says, hey, Oxhorn, coffee or tea? Also, will we ever hear that sweet, sweet singing voice again? I don't know. If there's ever an opportunity in the lore of the game to use it, then maybe. But I'm a tea and coffee drinker. This was my tea mug from today. I had a coffee before that, so I chug both coffee and tea every single day. If I had to pick, I'd say coffee. Coffee is, after all, a proud American drink. Anime fan says, hey, Oxhorn, what do you think of glitter? I hate it. It gets everywhere. Remember years ago they had those glitter bombs you could buy online where you could punch in your enemy's physical address and someone would mail that person a glitter bomb where they would open the package and it was spring-loaded and glitter would fly out right in their faces. Completely harmless, but they had quite a mess to clean up. I think they had to eventually stop doing it. I think they got in trouble. But for a while there, glitter bombs were a thing. That's how much people hate glitter. And I'm not a fan. Sir Derpman says, Oxhorn, will you ever do a full vanilla Fallout 4 playthrough? Yeah, I've actually been thinking about that for some time. I started off doing all of the side locations, which I'm continuing to do, and all of the side stories. For Fallout 4, I'm starting to come to an end. I'm starting to fill up everything. I'm starting to have completed everything. So what I may do is start going through the DLCs. I've already done Automatron, but I have not done a full play-by-play retelling of Far Harbor or Nuka World. So I could do that. And then when that's done, I may do the major plot. But I would do each of the major faction playthroughs. There are many people who sided with one faction, and they never got to see everything that happened in the other playthroughs. So doing each of those would be really interesting. All right, 2 more questions, then I need to end the broadcast to continue with my video. But this has been a nice break. I got to stop editing video for a little bit, put on my hat, light a cigar, and chat with all of you, which has been great. But if I'm going to finish tomorrow's video, I got to get to work. John Don Corleone says, it's still rather odd that of all the things Oxhorn hasn't covered in Fallout 4, it's the main quest. Yeah, no, it's, but see, it wouldn't have been interesting if that's where I started. I think one of the reasons my channel was as successful as it was, and grew as quickly as it did, is because I wanted to focus on things that people hadn't talked a whole lot about yet. Not necessarily just fan theories, because fan theories are a dime a dozen. They're interesting, but everyone has his or own theory. But I wanted to focus on the evidence. Like, what's the actual evidence we find in the game? That's what's interesting to me. Because there are so many games now, and if all of it's canon, well, we can go back in time to all of these different games and different plots and different locations and reconstruct the real story. So I wanted to focus on that, which is what I've tried to do with my recent videos. Like, I recently did Who Dropped the Bombs on Fallout 4, the full story, or in the Fallout franchise, the full story of the Sole Survivor, and I went through many different games to get all that information. But yeah, that stuff helped the channel to grow, and now I think people would really enjoy seeing the primary plot playthrough. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. $218 Productions with a tip says, ever play with the lightsaber mod? No. I don't like mixing my geeky genres. That was my major criticism about the Doom armor from the Creation Club. It's from a completely different game. Why would I want that in Fallout 4? If I wanted to play Doom, I would play Doom. If I want to wield a lightsaber, I'll play a Star Wars game. I don't want to see that in Fallout 4. Alright, one more question, then I gotta go. Supreme Commander James Shue says, Oxhorn, last question, do you know who the Fonz is from the 70s show Happy Days? How can you be as old as I am and not know who the Fonz is? I mean, I was not alive during the 70s, but even so, he's shown up in so many other things, like, he was in The Wedding Singer, wasn't he? Yeah. Yes, I do know who the Fonz is. Roberts Gaming, what do you think of the Raider gangs in Nuka World? What do you think of them? I dislike all of them. I think that they're all incredibly evil. Some more evil than others. At least the operators, at least you can work with the operators. At the end of the day, at least they're greedy. With a greedy person, you can reason. I don't agree with being greedy. I think being greedy is not cool. But you can at least reason with a greedy person. If you have something they covet, you can use that as leverage to get what you want out of that person. But for an insane, murderous person, like all of the disciples, or for insane beast creatures, like the Pack, who are all about savagery and, you know, being an alpha dog, there's little you can do to reason with them. It's hard to work with. So they're all evil, but some are easier to work with than others. But I covered this in my video on the ending, the evil ending and the good. I did two different videos. The evil ending to Nuka World and the good ending to Nuka World. Those are already done. They're online. You should check them out. And I go through all of my thoughts about all of the different Raider factions from Nuka World in those videos. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming to this week's episode of Scotch and Smoke Rings, episode 431. Sorry that it's a shorter episode today. Sorry I'm not doing any gameplay today, but I really got to get this video done. And I'm so glad that you came and stopped by to say hi in the meantime. But stay tuned, ladies and gents. New video tomorrow. If I'm lucky and I get this video done, we'll have episode 4 of Old World Blues tomorrow. I'm working hard on it. No promises. I still have a lot to do, but I'm going to try and get it done in time for tomorrow morning. So be sure that you tune in tomorrow morning, same Ox time, same Ox channel. And until then, thanks for coming, and see you later. Have a good one.